I want to go back to something you said earlier, and that was, and I've heard about this, okay, but I've never experienced it, all right? When you roll up at a stoplight and a cop is up next to you, you feel a level of fear that I've never, I always do just because of guilt. I'm a bad driver. And it's like, oh no, that's a whole other podcast. Yeah. But see, I want to understand, okay? I'm not the only white guy in a subdivision of color.
Right.
All right. But you are, pretty much, all right, in a city that's, in a state that's pretty, white.
Right.
All right. And I don't know what that feels like. All right. I know that I've been to Africa and I've been the only white guy in sight, and it's pretty intimidating. Yeah. I actually know more Africans than I know African Americans. It really is true, because that's a whole other thing too. I grew up in the middle of a cornfield, Indiana, and just like everybody was like me, looked like me, and ate the same stuff, right? Yeah. So I'm really ignorant. I just say it right out, and I want to learn. It's like, what does it feel like on a daily basis? Because I've gotten people saying, it feels racist when I go to church. It feels racist when I go to school. I don't have to have the conversation with my kids or grandkids about, okay, so you might be singled out today because you're white. It's like, I don't have that. Describe that. Because what does it feel like to have your 3-year-old in a stroller going down the street and be nervous? What does it feel like to send your kid off to school with special instructions to be like, okay, and I hear about it a lot. I don't know what that feels like. But if I want to understand, I do. I want to understand. So tell me what that feels like. And then I'm going to go back to your thing of, what am I supposed to do about it? Yeah. As a 58-year-old white guy living in a white subdivision in a white state, it's like, because I'll step up as much as I can. I don't know what to do. Yeah. And that may be ignorant or whatever, but what's it feel like?
Well, I'll say, for myself, like I said, like I moved here in 4th grade, so I've lived here for a long time. And I think now about my own children, I think what I've come to realize, I think in the last, like 10, 15 years, is that although I grew up here, I didn't grow up here feeling like the only black person. The church I was at was all black people. I had black friends in high school and things. So on the regular, my friend group were other black people. And so while it was, noticeable, like, that I might be the only black person in my class that period or whatever, it wasn't like I went through the school day necessarily like that, or definitely not the weekends like that. And so I think I went into having my own kids kind of in that same mind space that, yeah, we're here, but, I still have, these friends and people that share my experience, thinking that my kids were going to have that as well. And so very rapidly became not the case for them. Like I said, for most days, the only other black people they're going to see are me and my parents or, cousins and things like that, if we see them on a day. So they will go to school and for the most part be, alone in that way. Same thing when we come to church here. I know that there's other black people in the church, but, with thousands of people walking in and out, I'm probably not going to see them.
You're going to get lost.
Yeah, I'm not going to see you. And so while I think for the most part, I don't carry a lot of fear around with me on a daily basis, I always notice it. I'm never going to walk in somewhere and not notice that I'm the only black person.
Grocery store.
There. Yeah. Grocery store, a meeting, church, all my jobs, that I ever had, that's always the thing. And so I think what comes with that is always this conscious, am I going to talk about that thing today? Or, can I share that whole experience of that thing that happens? Because I do have that feeling of is someone going to say, oh, you're making a big deal about it, or, or even just, I want to get my hair done. And then, everyone's like, well, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, I got to take the whole day to go get my hair done because I got to go drive all the way down here. Just, all of these things that are just normal conversations that I might have with black friends. They're not happening in my daily
you're bothering
experience.
Somebody with going, hey, I have to do things different, or this happened to me. And do you sense that nobody really wants to hear about that, Folami?
I don't know. Maybe sometimes, or maybe, you feel like, you just have those. Maybe I'm bothering somebody. Maybe they're not going to understand. Maybe they hear me and they think that's stupid, and are they getting mad because they think I'm overreacting. All of those things. And so what I've tried to do, what I'm getting better at doing, is just if I say these are my coworkers, these are people who say that they're my friends, and I have to be able to say, hey, this thing happened to me and my son, in this situation, and I'm going to tell you the whole situation, and this is what it is, and it's happened today, and it happened last week, and it happened, for my daughter, last week, and just putting it out there so that it's not like I'm holding it all in, because I think I can do that too, of just, well, nobody's going to understand, so I'm just going to hold it in and, and carry it on my own. So where I wouldn't say like I feel like I'm in this racist circumstance all the time, it is very, I'm very aware that I'm the only Black person, around. And so I think when it comes to like when someone says, when I go to church, I think I am consciously thinking, should I send my kid to that place? Because I don't know what the people they're going to do. So, my daughter is very, very, very highly involved with student ministries. She loves it. I love it. It's been great for her. She lives and dies for student ministries. But one thing I always think about is when there is like the picture of camp comes up. Everybody in the picture is white. For her, up until probably last year, wasn't really a big thing. But for me, I think, well, is she going to be the only Black person that's up there at camp? She might be. But, everywhere I go, that's what you see. The picture of the place I'm getting ready to send them only has white people. The picture of the school or the place. That's always in the in the back of my head.
And that's not.
And it's just
a is
right, and it's just reflective of where we are. So I think it would be inauthentic if I got to church tomorrow and then there was 5 Black people and an Asian person and this and this and this, because it's not reflective of where we live.
But what fear comes up with it? It just that she'll be different or alone, or
what comes up for me is that when the circumstance happens, when the day happens, when somebody tells the inappropriate joke or says something to her that's hurtful, or she's trying to express something, that what she gets back is, so. Yeah, like you chose to be here, or or you're making a bigger deal, or you're making the day weird.
You chose to be here, and you're insinuating this is ours, and you're an outsider coming into our thing. It's how it feels.
Yeah.
Is that close?
So
I get that.
And as you're talking to it sounds like the thing that you're looking for at work or with your friends or whatever is that same safe space that your daughter's looking for downtown right now with protests.
I'm like,
where it's like I just want to be heard and not feel like I have to hold back half of it.
I'm like, and be able to say, and I think as an adult, I can talk through, I can very clearly say to somebody, hey, that's not right. That's inappropriate. When you're working with, 10, 12 and 16-year-olds, I told my daughter at 16, like, you're going to have to be able to say, hey, that you can't say that. That's not, that's not okay, and call it out at that moment, but leading up to that, that's not just calling it out and everything being good. You're calling it out and you're by yourself, which means for the rest of the day, probably you're on your own, because now your friends are all feeling weird. Nobody's talking to you. So, they're running the risk of their whole friend group disappearing that day or weeks or whatever, because you're telling them you can't tell that joke or, whatever that thing may be. But you need to do it, and so as I'm talking to my kids about, you can't let that joke go by, you can't, because if you are feeling uncomfortable and you just chuckle, then tomorrow there'll be another one, and there'll be another one, till this is just what's happening around you. On a regular basis. And so it's just, so it's, I think it's always there. It's always in the back of my mind. There are days that I definitely feel scared, I would say more so for my son than for my girls. But, I do, like, be careful where you ride your bike, be careful, be aware who's around you. And,
and every parent has that, but it's a whole other level, because
I don't know what the reaction. Yeah, I feel like the reaction to what somebody might think you're doing, I feel like could be more extreme. And
that goes back to what you were saying. Is like, when I pull up to an intersection and a cop's behind me, I have motions around it, but not like yours. I think I don't think he's going to probably. I don't know of very many stories about a cop pulling a white guy out of a car and beating the crap out of him or getting shot because and I'm sure they're out there, okay? Mm-hmm. But proportionally, they're just, all right. So let me just ask this, okay? I know there's the blatant acts of racism out there and the blatant words and the blatant, just vile, heinous things, all right? But how have you experienced racism on a subtle little thing that just goes, and you've learned to live with it maybe, or even accept it? It's just par for the course. Does that make sense? Like I was afraid about, again, let's get the four of us together. Is that somehow racism? I'm saying let's have a conversation. I said this before we got started. I don't want to do a photo op. I want to have a conversation. But I also know that when I said what I said on a video earlier this week about, hey, I'm looking at the George Floyd thing, and then I talked about racism, and then here it came. It was like, why do you have to say it like that? So the people that were it's all police brutality, and then it's all racism, or it's all this, or it's all they all came at me. And I'm like, I think I just got called a racist for calling out racism, Yeah. So on a daily basis, what are examples of where you have experienced, man, you can call it whatever it is, it's racism. And maybe you've learned to live with it, but I don't want to be part of that. Hey, it's just how it is, man,
Going to the store and I'm on the aisle, there's just two of us on the aisle, a white guy deodorant section, because that's the one that's always the most memorable. And an associate comes down, pass up the white guy, doesn't say anything, and then I'm sitting up here just comparing, seeing which deodorant I want, take top off, smell it. Associate walks back and forth, then all of a sudden acting like he's restocking, like fixing the shelf. He's not restocking. I've worked many jobs, one being in retail. You're not restocking. He just...
He's watching you.
Need any help finding anything today? No, I'm good. Okay. Come back 5 minutes later because I'm still there. Can't make up my mind. I like Old Spice deodorant, so I want to be sure I get the right one.
That makes sense.
So
it doesn't take that long to pick out deodorant.
I'm just saying that's a different sense. It's almost like flavors, but it's different scents. So I'm sitting up there, and then goes off, come back around. Never says anything to the way. Now I'm aware because I already saw you pat this, and then come back. Still okay? You still don't need any help? I'm good. So now I went from, I'm good, I know what it is. I've been here before many times. Just say that, then you come back, still need help now? I'm good. So now I'm starting to get aggravated. So now it's going to be portrayed as he's angry,
Better watching more.
Yeah, like more. So I'm just like, it's gotten to the point because, like I say, we have a special needs child, and if I pick him up from school, and my wife Kelly's out of town, and I forgot to text her, how was Jackson's day, and stuff. So a lot of times I am looking at my phone to see time, nap time, stuff. It's gotten to the point where I hold my phone out, and then I put it in my pocket like this, just in case if they're looking at the cameras, someone in the security thing, or someone is somewhere up looking, because I don't want them to think that I done went from looking at this deodorant to all of a sudden like this. So now it's, and I'm slowly putting it in my pocket just so whatever glimpse, I don't know where the cameras are in the place, but they can see that I'm not doing anything, so.
And it's a million little things like that.
It's a million little things, but that happens on the regular. Like I try not to have my phone out because I don't want to keep doing that every time, but that happens.
But it takes you 20 minutes to pick out deodorant, so
Nah,
you got to check out phones. I know. I know I'm getting it for Christmas. Man.
Well, I think one thing I would say, we've had incidents like that as well, but I think one thing things that happen, I would say, maybe as a woman or, with my kids is definitely like, you'll hear a lot of, you're not like other Black people, or you're, I've heard that a million times over the years, for my kids,
You're Black.
But you're not
like you're cool.
Yeah, like yes, and so then you're like, well, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean by that statement? I want my kids to marry a black person, or it would be so cute if my, I'm like, okay,
Wait,
why?
someone said it?
Oh, people say that a lot, especially regarding my, my son. It would be so great if my daughter marry someone black like your son, or they'd be so
Not
cute.
handsome like your son, or not cool like your son.
Just black like my son. Yeah. Stuff like that. So
On behalf of my race,
I'm
sorry. I'd like to apologize. For how stupid.
Well, and so I think one of the things though is that, and I say this to my kids all the time, I'm like, like I said, we're here, we live here. There's the people around are just the people that are around, and I've been teaching, preschool for like 22 years. And even just with kids, I'm like, you're only going to see the people that are just in your community, and if we lived somewhere completely different, you would just see all kinds of different people all the time. And it wouldn't be a thing necessarily, because you'd see this black person over here with braids, or you see this light skinned black person and they would have different hair. There would just be all these different kinds of people. And so when it's just you, people are wrapping your whole black experience into what they see happening with you in a day, and then
good.
thinking that you have all the answers. And I'm like, I'm just this black person that grew up here and has had this experience. And if I had stayed in Kentucky, or if I had moved somewhere else, it would be a very different experience. And I'm aware of that, and I need my kids to be aware of that. And so sometimes I'm like, when your friends are saying they don't understand why it's different for you, sometimes they really don't understand. You are at school with them. You went to the park with them. You went to the Elitches with them today. You just did everything today that they did. So, I can give some grace with that. I'm like, they're legitimately asking you that. But, like I said, needing to address those things, I spent the last semester, or the last part of school right before the quarantine, with some kids telling jokes about like niggers and doing this, and literally don't think that they were trying to be racist at this point. I mean, they're 10-year-old, 12-year-olds. And I was like, but they're obviously standing here in front of me telling this joke. So they are like oblivious to the fact that's inappropriate, but I have to address that, right now, because I know you're feeling like,
How'd you do it? How'd you address it?
I said to the kids, it's like, hey, why do you think that that it's okay to tell this joke? And he was really like, I don't know. I heard it on TikTok, and I'm like, okay. So, we talked through why that's inappropriate. My son's looking like, scared, and, like, should I chuckle because he doesn't know? I'm like, no, you shouldn't chuckle, at that. And, I ended up talking to a couple of parents, and I said, I don't think that your sons today were intending on trying to make my son feel bad or in a hostile environment. I think it's like, oh, well, you're my friend, so I should be able to say this to you. And I'm like, no, and parents were, appalled, as adults would be. And I'm like, I just need for this to be able to be a conversation going forward, because if I let this go until they're 13 and 14, it'll be a different, a different conversation. And, then my son's in the middle of this really uncomfortable space, every day. And, so there's just things like that, that's where I feel like, you get a lot of that, like, you're not like other people, or there's some view of what black people are supposed to be like. And, you said, like, there's a lot of, loving the culture of things, or music, or, talking about things. And sometimes you just want to learn. Sometimes it's just, that's just what I do, and it's just a regular part of, of who I am. And, it's just a very strange position to be in, like I said, and when you don't have other black people around you, that if you don't see them, for my kids, if you don't see another black person, I think you can really start internalizing, well, is how I have my hair wrong today, or is how I talk like that today wrong? Should I talk like something else? If I really was black, I would be talking a different way. So you have all this coming at you, and I'm like, no, you are black. So however you are, this is just how you are. You don't have to try to put on this persona or this way of talking or liking this kind of music. You just like what you like, and you are who you are, and you are a black boy, and you are a black girl. It just is, Yeah.
All right. We got to wrap this up. I could go with this all day. This is like 4 episodes.
Let's do part two for sure.
Well, I think we're going to break this into like 5 parts. So
that's fine. I'm good with that.
That's okay. But I think the whole thing is we're just putting our toe in the water going, hey, we want to start having a conversation, and we don't, the answer to hate is love, and the answer to ignorance is, education and knowledge and experience. And I teach this all the time, is that the way to build relationships is shared experience over time, and so that there's no shortcut to that. It's like, hey, let's walk together in the same direction. That's what I taught on this past week. Let's walk together in the same direction. Right. We'll go through some stuff, but we'll get to know each other, how we really are. Okay. So I'm just going to ask the dumb white guy question. I hope it's okay. I raised our hand and said our church needs to do better. And our church is primarily made up of white people, right? So I'm speaking for our faith community. It's like, we want to do better. So I don't want to give us 5 steps to, whatever that is, but what's just some obvious things going, you probably don't think about this, but, you talked about being at the grocery store and like that. Everybody gives each other a wide swath now because we'll all get cooties or whatever, COVID, cooties. What is like something that happens that you just roll your eyes and accept, but then what is something going in an interaction with a person that's different than you? You go, that was cool. Like what could we do better as a faith community when we're encountering people that are different than us, And that, I'm sure that goes black to white too, It's like, I remember the first time thinking I might be racist when I was walking down a road in Kenya, and I had these 2 Maasai guys walking towards me, and I'm a white guy, and I got like 4 Maasai guys coming toward me. Of course, they do have spears, right? But I remember clenching my fist, and then they just like, because if this was in downtown Louisville, it would feel intimidating, just because I have tapes playing in my head, right? You have tapes in your head, right? And then they were like, Jumbo, then they were like the nicest guys ever, and I immediately went, I jumped a gun, and I threw a bunch of tapes and baggage at another group of people, and then it immediately went away. But I think we do that a lot. So what are a couple things going, this is helpful, or this is not helpful? Anything come to mind is like going, I can't say I wish white people would do this, or right, but maybe it's that blatant as going, hey people, just what? Is that fair? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah,
you could probably say it better.
No. You're a wordsmith. I'm not. But no, that I was going to read a quote, and ask a similar question of like, what does it look like for us to actually like take a stand and stand next to you? Right. Like you said that, I think that was the first thing that we talked about on the podcast of like, I just want people to be able to stand next to me. That's what the protesters are hopefully doing down there. Right. How do we do that in a way that's authentic? You said like, how do we do that in a way that's like, oh, that was cool they did that way. But it's like, how do we do that authentically instead of...
What's helpful?
Yeah.
I mean, don't be afraid. First, from a black perspective, a black man, I speak for myself and other black men, we can't let the wrongdoing of someone else dilute who we really are. I'm normally a person who, hey, how you doing? What's up? If you don't speak back, then that's fine, but at least I spoke. I can't let the actions of someone else dilute me, because that's what it's starting to do, starting to take away from who I am. So, I encourage all other black men, to stay true to you. Just because you speak to a random white person, a random Asian, Spanish person, whatever, that doesn't mean you're accepting what happened to George and Alton and all the other people. We can't I feel that's when negativity and Satan is coming in and trying to invade. So stay true to you and be cordial. And from a white perspective, just don't assume. Don't assume that we're okay. Don't assume that, yeah, they strong. She's a strong person. He's a strong guy. Yeah, they strong. They'll be all right. No, a quick shout out to my guy, Eric Johnson, who texted me the other day, was like, yo, I was going to wait till Thursday to ask you about it. He's like, but I just couldn't wait that long. Anything I can, I don't know what you're going through. I'll never understand, but how can I be here for you? How can I help you?
How did you respond to that?
And I was like, the fact that you asked, that's doing tons. That's showing that you standing with me, that you got my back. And standing with someone doesn't mean like standing with them. What it means is, if something wild happens and I'm falsely accused of something, knowing that Eric and this person and that person, who's not my blood family, who's not my immediate family like Kelly and my kids, but they're going to be like, hell no, he didn't do it. We standing with him.
Yeah.
I know he didn't do it. That's what we mean by when we say standing with us. If the time comes when we falsely, not the when the time comes, but hopefully it never, but if it was to come down to that, just say, we got you. Mm-hmm. And just reach out to your friend and say, hey, I'm here for you. that simple thing right there is like, all right,
Okay.
I know they got me.
And even if the response right away says, well, you haven't been around for the last 10 years, push through it and say it and acknowledge, I haven't been here like I should, but I'm trying to do better. How you doing? Is that a good start?
That's a tool, because I mean, for me, they don't even have to be like, I know I hadn't been, because I'm a Christian. You know, if Folami's friends know who she is, my friends know who I am, and so forth, especially, you know, Christian folks, if you know that how my faith is, you know, you don't even have to come at me like, yeah, I know I hadn't reached out to you in 5 weeks and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, man, because all I'm going to say is, man, you probably been going through a storm. I know I've been going through a storm with the kids and stuff, so we good, but thank you, and
Here
leave
now.
it at that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just think, and acknowledging all the sides. And so when I think of, when things like racism and things like this, like they're not going away. I was like, we know that Jesus came and he's conquered all of these things. Like, it's sin, just like any other sin. So
Yeah.
I don't have I'm not looking to think that things are going to get all better before Jesus comes. Like, that's not what the Bible says. Things are going to get, like worse and worse, and that my fight isn't necessarily towards specific people or white people. This is what Satan's coming to do, to divide people.
Yep.
And he's glad when all this, when all this stuff goes down. So I am, like I said, like I appreciate when someone does reach out to me, and I might not have like this great necessarily big response right now, but if we're believers and we call ourselves believers, then that's what we have to do. We have to stand up for against sin and call it out for what it is.
Yeah.
And just be there for people, and be friends with with people. Don't go, have to go out of your way necessarily to meet every black person that you come by, but
Yeah.
if they're on your staff, if they're in your if they're in your class, if they're in your
your
school,
church lobby.
yeah, and I could just, like I said, like it's nice to know like that people understand, like, hey, I do have those feelings. Like I love this place. Do I wish I had like more black friends sometimes? Yeah, I do. Like it'd be nice that people understood what I feel on a day-to-day basis. But I am okay to share my experience and just know that someone's okay to listen to my experience without dismissing it as non-existent, I guess. So yeah.
I got all these people telling me what downtown Denver's really all about, and so some people say it's racism, some say it's brutality, some people say it's just hatred or anger, whatever that is. I think the one thing we could all reduce it down to is people failing to see other people as God sees them.
True.
And you can use a blue uniform, or you can use a black skin or a white skin, or you can use a societal thing or something like that. But it is sin. We're sinning against each other.
Right.
It's just coming out that and we're calling it that. But I think the only cure to this, I think the church has to go on the lead of going, I need to agree. I need to agree with God how he sees you. And it's just valuing you as a person, right? And if we could just do that better, which is only made possible by Christ and his spirit living inside of us. But I know it might have been uncomfortable or a risk, whatever, to come in here. I don't know what it felt like. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think we've gone like an hour and a half, so this will probably be five podcasts, or we'll continue it different. John C's asleep over there, but hey, thanks again, and I'm really glad to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Glad we got to have it, because it was much needed.
Much overdue.
Yeah, way overdue.
First of many, I hope.
I hope so, and hopefully we was able to reach people and open their eyes and realize that we're all in this together at the end of the day. We're just trying to bring awareness and trying to help the icebreaker. Let this be the icebreaker for conversations.
Yep. I agree. And we agree the SEC is the best conference in
You already know.
You guys are wrong, but it's fine.
No,
See you guys next week.
We're all divided. Bye.